Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're diving into the fascinating life of Princess Helena Augusta Victoria, a lesser-known but remarkable daughter of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert. Born in the regal setting of Buckingham Palace, Helena dedicated herself to philanthropy, nursing reform, and women's education at a time when these causes were anything but ordinary. If you've ever wondered how a quietly determined royal helped shape the future of healthcare in Britain, you're in the right place. Stay tuned, because this captivating story of duty, compassion, and perseverance will change the way you see the Victorian royal family. Born on May 25, 1846, at Buckingham Palace in London, Helena Augusta Victoria was the third daughter and fifth child of Queen Victoria and Prince Albert of Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. Surrounded by the pomp and protocol of the British court from the very start, she nonetheless absorbed influences that would guide her away from self-indulgence and toward a life focused on service. She took her first breaths within the heart of an empire, growing ever vaster, with England's power stretching across continents and oceans. Yet her parents, one a monarch possessing near mythical significance, the other a forward-thinking prince dedicated to intellectual and social progress, believed their children should be shaped not just by privilege, but also by discipline and moral duty. For Helena, that early emphasis on duty became something of a personal compass. She had 8 siblings in total, each with distinct identities that would play out on the European stage. The eldest sister, Victoria, was destined for a significant marriage in Prussia. Edward, the oldest brother, would become King Edward VII, remembered for his sociability and modernizing spirit. Alice was gentle and nurturing, Louise more rebellious and artistically bold, Beatrice the baby of the family who would remain longest with their mother. Meanwhile, Helena's place among them, as both the third daughter and the fifth child, did not automatically thrust her into any grand political alliance or enthrone her as a future queen. Instead, she was often seen as one of the children most aligned with her father's practical philosophies, quietly receptive, compassionate, and ready to convert her sympathy for others into constructive action. Prince Albert was a guiding star in Helena's life. He came from a German background, married to Victoria while still young, and labored tirelessly to shape the monarchy into a beacon of philanthropy and innovation. Eager to broaden horizons, he ensured that Helena and her siblings received a robust education, lessons in German and French, music, particularly piano, drawing and painting, as well as more abstract subjects like history and moral philosophy. In these classes, Helena displayed a sensible mind and a caring heart. Though not hailed as a brilliant artist or a dazzling beauty like some of her sisters, she earned a reputation for warmth and dependability, qualities that would resonate throughout her life. Childhood at Buckingham Palace included carefully orchestrated daily schedules, nanny supervision, visits with tutors, and the swirl of attention that inevitably accompanies royal children. But the atmosphere shifted drastically in 1861, when Helena was only 15. Prince Albert's untimely death devastated Queen Victoria and threw the entire household into deep mourning. The Queen's intense grief transformed her outlook on life, and she famously withdrew from many public engagements, swathing herself in black and imposing even greater control upon her family. Helena, sensitive by nature, became part of the emotional support structure for her mother, offering comfort however she could. This new dynamic solidified the Queen's grip on Helena's personal decisions. While in many royal families, a princess might expect to marry into a foreign court and thus have some measure of independence, Queen Victoria was adamant about keeping Helena nearby, unwilling to lose her daughter's companionship. When a potential suitor emerged, it was Prince Christian of Schleswig-Holstein, a match some considered beneath the rank expected for a daughter of the British Queen. Schleswig-Holstein, straddling the contested border between Denmark and Germany, was a modest territory without the grand political clout found in larger German states. However, for Queen Victoria, Christian's lack of a formidable foreign claim was precisely the point. He would be free to live in England, thereby ensuring Helena's continuing presence at court. In July 1866, Helena and Christian wed at Windsor, in a ceremony that reflected the Queen's ongoing austerity. The times were far from festive. Public attention lingered on the Queen's mourning, and the match itself, lacking the glamour of some other royal unions, did not inspire grand celebration. Yet for Helena, it was a moment of private joy. She had found a gentle, amiable partner who genuinely cared for her. Although their relationship never drew the florid adjectives that accompanied more famous royal romances, Helena and Christian formed a steadfast partnership built on mutual respect. They settled in residences near Windsor, including Frogmore House and later Cumberland Lodge, each a retreat from the formality of palace life, but still close enough for the Queen to summon them at will. Early in their marriage, Helena discovered that her position was still largely tethered to her mother's needs. Queen Victoria relied on her for support in clerical tasks, correspondence, and general companionship. Some onlookers in the court found it concerning that Helena, a married adult, was not free to carve out an entirely independent life. But Helena, balancing a sense of familial duty with her own temperament, rarely voiced open rebellion. She had internalized a belief in responsibility, in caring for relatives, and in loyalty to the crown. Whenever frustration arose, she channeled it into quiet perseverance or into philanthropic pursuits that were starting to capture more and more of her attention. Helena and Christian welcomed 6 children, though heartbreak followed early. 2 of them died in infancy, a grim reality not uncommon in the era, but still devastating to the parents. The 4 who survived, Christian Victor, Albert, Helena Victoria, and Marie-Louise, grew up in a household shaped by the tension between tradition and the progressive values that Helena and Christian both tried to instill. Helena believed wholeheartedly in the educational rigor and moral instruction her father had championed, so she made sure that her surviving children learned languages, arts, and, above all, a sense of social duty. A turning point in Helena's personal development occurred as she engaged more actively with philanthropic work. While charitable activities had long been part of royal custom, queens and princesses often patronized societies and hosted charitable balls. Helena took a more direct approach. She became particularly involved in the realm of nursing, an area already influenced by the pioneering work of Florence Nightingale. In 1887, Helena helped found and guide what became known as the Royal British Nurses Association, taking the view that nursing should be treated as a true profession requiring specialized training, proper registration, and societal respect. Her involvement was not merely ceremonial. She visited hospitals, consulted with senior medical figures of the day, and consistently pushed for improved standards. The prevailing view among many Victorians still clung to the idea that nursing was lowly domestic work, not an intellectually or technically skilled profession. Helena's endorsement helped chip away at such prejudices. She believed that better trained nurses could serve the nation's health far more effectively, especially if they were recognized as professionals rather than mere subordinates. Through personal letters, fundraising events, and repeated advocacy within her mother's extended circle, she championed expansions in nurse training programs, demanding that these workers receive structured lessons, appropriate practical experience, and, crucially, respect on par with other medical personnel. Beyond nursing, Helena also took on roles that supported women's education more generally. She became the president of the Royal School of Needlework, an institution designed to preserve and elevate the art of embroidery while providing incomes and opportunities for women. Needlework might sound quaint to modern ears, but during the late 19th century, This skill allowed women of limited means a chance to support themselves financially in a manner deemed respectable by society. Helena saw this as an avenue toward broader female empowerment. At a time when women's formal employment options were meager and social norms were rigid, she did her part to expand the horizon, if only in small, incremental ways. Daily life for Helena unfolded in a mix of personal family concerns, philanthropic meetings, official royal events, and the continuing pull of Queen Victoria's expectations. She also served for a long period as one of her mother's unofficial secretaries, handling scheduling, helping manage her mother's extensive letter-writing tradition, and ensuring that certain ceremonial duties were fulfilled. When people saw Helena at Windsor or Buckingham Palace, they noted a calm, unshowy demeanor. She was never the type to steal the limelight at a lavish ball. Instead, she quietly oversaw staff, tracked invitations, and greeted dignitaries with a polite warmth that reflected well on the monarchy. Still, one should not interpret Helena's outward composure as proof that she was entirely content with her limited independence. Letters and diaries suggest there were instances in which she chafed under the constraints, particularly in the early years of marriage, when the Queen's attempts to keep Helena by her side left little breathing room. Yet Helena's fundamental nature was not to rebel openly. Rather, she found ways to shape her life around charitable causes, building a sphere where she had real authority and could see the tangible results of her efforts. She was no figurehead in these endeavors. She actively recruited doctors, nurses, donors, and volunteers, leveraging her title to open doors while quietly applying her practical sense of organization. In 1900, tragedy struck again when her eldest son, Christian Victor, died during the Boer War in South Africa. The heartbreak was layered. Not only had she lost a child, but the manner of his death, linked to British military conflict, drew echoes of national involvement, stirring public sympathy, but also driving home the cost of empire. Helena pressed on, channeling sorrow into her philanthropic commitments. When Queen Victoria died in 1901, Helena lost the mother who, despite being a dominating figure, was also someone she had grown to pity, protect, and console since Prince Albert's death. The monarchy moved into the Edwardian era, with Helena's brother as King Edward VII, ushering in a livelier court life. Freed from her mother's shadow, Helena had more space to define her own activities, though by then she was already in her mid-50s. She continued serving the organizations she'd helped found, particularly those associated with nursing. The sense of duty that had been so pronounced in her upbringing carried through her adult life, meaning she perceived the monarchy as a platform for addressing the needs of the broader public, rather than simply for collecting honors or living lavishly. When World War I erupted in 1914, Helena once more found herself balancing personal circumstances against patriotic duty. Prince Christian, her husband, came from a German royal line. While the British monarchy itself had German roots going back generations, anti-German sentiment swept the country. People scrutinized anyone with a German name. Newspapers occasionally aimed suspicion at Helena and Christian, ignoring the fact that they had spent virtually their entire married lives in England, invested deeply in local charities, and raised their children as Britons. Undeterred, Helena intensified her philanthropic work to support the war effort. She worked closely with organizations that provided medical supplies and staff to the front lines, raised funds for the Red Cross, and visited injured soldiers in hospitals, offering comfort in a manner reminiscent of her father's belief in compassion as a fundamental duty. She did not stage elaborate events to defend herself from accusations of disloyalty. She simply showed loyalty through consistent action. Over time, even the harsher voices in the press quieted when confronted with the evidence of her sincere dedication. The war ended in 1918, leaving behind a continent scarred by conflict. Helena's personal losses and anxieties deepened further in 1917, when Prince Christian died after more than half a century of marriage. Their union, if not the grandest in historical memory, had been a steady, affectionate partnership. Helena grieved for him in a subdued but profound way, much as she had for her father decades earlier. She found solace in continuing the philanthropic roles they had shared. Christian had supported her involvement in nursing reform, visited hospitals with her, and encouraged her to remain active in women's education. In her final years, Helena lived at Schomberg House in London, a quieter existence, but still marked by unwavering support for her charities. While she no longer carried out official secretarial tasks for her mother, she remained involved in smaller royal events, attended family gatherings, and offered grandmotherly affection to her growing circle of descendants. She witnessed the monarchy transition yet again, this time to her nephew George V, as the empire struggled to define itself in the post-war world. Helena's philanthropic bodies, specifically those for nurses, grew in importance, as so many soldiers had returned home in need of medical care, rehabilitation, and skilled nursing. By the early 1920s, her health was declining. People close to her recognized that she no longer had the energy for the daily schedules she had once managed with relative ease. Still, she insisted on reading updates from the charitable organizations she patronized, penning letters of encouragement, and ensuring that projects continued. In June 1923, her condition worsened, and on the 9th of that month, she died at the age of 77. While not unexpected, her passing brought forth a wave of retrospection among her family members and the communities she had served. Though her funeral was not the grandiose affair that might greet a reigning monarch, those in attendance remembered Helena's decades-long involvement in philanthropic causes. Nurses, some in uniforms that reflected the evolution of the very profession Helena had helped legitimize, paid their respects. Representatives of hospitals and schools that had benefited from her patronage appeared alongside members of the extended royal family. People spoke in subdued terms about her contributions. She was interred at the Royal Burial Ground in Frogmore, near her parents, linking her final resting place to the father whose ideals shaped her sense of purpose and the mother whose shadow she had never fully escaped. And that wraps up our look at the extraordinary journey of Princess Helena Augusta Victoria. From her early days at Buckingham Palace to her influential work championing nursing and female empowerment, Helena's legacy proves that even the quietest figures in history can leave a profound impact. If you enjoyed discovering this hidden chapter of Victorian royalty, be sure to give this video a thumbs up and let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our latest deep dives into royal history and beyond. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.